Good morning from Portugal to Sweden, England, and everybody else that is watching this video. And we were just talking that is freezing here in Lisbon with 9 degrees centigrade Celsius. And Sophie is living with 10 minus. So, it's Europe in winter. And Peter, how much is it in London?
I don't know. It's about 2 or 3 degrees, I think.
Okay, so we win. And
yeah,
Sophie wins on the other side. You are like, half and half. So Peter today will be joining us through photography. So we have this nice picture of Peter that is always smiling. So he will be smiling the whole hangout. So it's very difficult to be always smiling and even saying serious things, but he will be. So today we will be talking about 9 simple ways of making a difference in the world. And as always, we have like 3 each. So I will start with Sophie, that is the person that has, like me, not a photography talking. So yes. Sophie, tell me one.
Yeah, well, there are like 1 million things you can do to make a difference in the world, and you can interpret it in so many ways. But the first thing that I want to share is about your investments that you make. And I think we can make a big difference, all of us, if we stop investing in unethical businesses. And by that, I mean both buying shares in these businesses or buying funds that invests in unethical businesses. And we all have to decide what we think is unethical. And also, I think it's the same when we go shopping. We need to decide, am I going to buy these things that are unethically produced? And the other day I bought a big pack of raisins. And then I realized that these raisins they grow in California, where they don't have any water. So I felt for myself, is this really ethical? It's probably not, because they need their water there to others. So I wouldn't buy raisins from California. I will buy raisins from somewhere else where they don't have this in the same way. But anyway, so with the shares and companies, you need to know where you stand and decide what kind of things you're going to invest in if you buy any shares in companies, and as well as products. That's my first tips.
If you are an informed consumer, you can avoid being an accomplice to many bad things. It's not only the bloody diamonds. There is a lot of other stuff, textiles and agriculture, that you have to be careful. So Peter. Yeah. Certainly, the smiley photo has a voice.
Yes, this is good for my ventriloquist training. I can speak without moving my lips.
Absolutely amazing.
Incredible, isn't it? Yes, apologies everyone. The camera seems not to be working this morning. I will be buying another one as a spare. Okay, so my first one is to start with yourself. I think a lot of us look out into the world and say, oh, things are not good, it's all bad and everything. And we say we want to see peace and love and joy, and we want to see more ethics, and we want abundance and sharing and all of that kind of stuff out there in the world. But I think the first place to start is have a look inside yourself. So, for example, probably like most people, I'm not that keen on the idea of some of the horrendous wars that are going on around the world. And there's not a lot I can do individually to change that. But what I can do is have a good look at myself and the wars that I enter into with those closest to me. So I think it's good practice to work at cleaning up our own act. So if you catch yourself being defensive or attacking another person, whether it's overtly or covertly, work to clean that up first. Mother Teresa was once asked if she would join an anti-war march, and she said no, but if there's a march for peace, I'll be there. So I think a lot of us are fighting against things, and it's kind of ironic that people fight against war, or we have wars against terror, when in fact war itself is a form of terror. So I think the bottom line is we just have to have a good look at ourselves and work to clean up ourselves, and then we will be much more effective at helping other people in the world.
Good. I will give you my suggestion. My suggestion is that every big journey starts with one step. A lot of people, when they think about, okay, I want to have an impact in the world, I want to change stuff, and they get very motivated. They might go to a seminar and to do like, yes, I'm great at this, I will make an impact. But then they get outside of the room and they are like, oh my God, there is so many things. I'm a small piece of sand in a huge beach or something like that. And people forget that every big change in the world started with one step of one person, one tiny bit of sand. And that is something that we don't realize, the impact that we have in life of others when we start doing stuff, the forces that we unleash. And we have to understand that if we don't do the first step, nothing will happen. That is for sure. But if we do a step, then it follows the second one and the third one, and things start happening. Don't be overambitious, but think that if every bit of sand gives a step, the beach moves. So, Sophie, yours.
Yeah, I'm going to build on what you just said there. Many times when I've been working and doing projects with people, I've seen that we are sometimes scared of people who have ideas that might not be possible to do, or they sound really stupid, or...
Sorry, Sophie, can you start it from the beginning, because there was some cuts.
It's breaking up a bit.
I lowered the bandwidth. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
Yeah, noting on what Filipe just said, and I think that we will gain a lot from supporting people who have ideas that are crazy, impossible, and never ever going to be able to manage them. And I see that quite often we are scared of supporting people who are from see as the comfort zone, but the ideas, we
are still
the better
a lot
world.
of cuts, Sophie. Sorry.
Could you try turning your camera off, Sophie? It might help, perhaps.
Yeah, let's see.
Now we have two pictures.
Yay!
One moving guy.
Okay. Let's see. Let's try that. Yeah, what I was trying to say was that I often see that we are scared of supporting people who have crazy and wacky and stupid ideas. But there are often these kind of ideas that are going to do a big difference. So if you want to make a difference in the world, support the weird ideas. And often you need just a tiny bit of support. And when I was running my own business, I started to believe that I could do it from a few tiny sentences of support. It was down for 2 hours with people, but I sat down for like 5 minutes and they gave me enough confidence to do something. So often when people are like in front of them, it can be really hard just because you don't get it. Just be supportive in the way you can. Do things that you don't really grab or you think they are a bit weird. So just go on and do it.
Great. Sophie, we are still having some cuts. Maybe you have some apps like Skype or something like that open that are getting some some of the bandwidth. I will pass to Peter, and I ask you to try to take all the processes that are not needed from the computer down. Maybe in the next question we will have without cuts. Peter, so next.
Okay, so my second one is around forgiving people. There's an old saying that to err is human, to forgive divine. You know, we're all human, we all make mistakes, but you know, we're very quick to judge other people, and I think learning to forgive people and forgive yourself is really, really powerful. So, you know, we like to condemn other people for they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have said that, and so on. And of course, if we had a look at ourselves, and it relates back to my first point about cleaning up your own act, you know, if we're honest with ourselves, there's been times we will have hurt other people. Sometimes we might have known about it. Sometimes we didn't realize. And that'll be the same for other people. Sometimes people do things they don't realize the impact of what they're doing. And I accept that, you know, there are times when people are intentionally out to hurt other people. But the way I see that is they're operating from a lower level of consciousness. They don't really understand the impact of what they're doing and how it's probably hurting them in some way. And I'm not saying this to excuse or condone it and say, you know, that's fine, just go ahead and do it. I'm just saying it's, you know, important to understand what goes on. And it's really hard sometimes to find forgiveness, but it's really, really worth it because we get back our own freedom and our own peace. And the truth is that people who have inner peace and freedom are much better at making the world a better place. And just one other point on this. An emotion like anger is a really natural emotion to have. And I'm not saying we just, you know, try and skip it altogether. But when we do have those kind of intense emotions, the best thing I would suggest is to see them as a kind of energy and look to harness and direct that energy in a really positive way. So a good metaphor is nuclear energy. If we harness it, we're able to warm and light people's houses. But if we turn it into a nuclear bomb, we simply destroy every single house. So, you know, think of your energy as your anger as an energy that you can direct and use in a positive way.
Good. That's a very, very interesting image because we could say that in the world a lot of events were done because leaders not only didn't manage to solve their internal issues, they try to solve it through external means using the people.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is something that is a kind of excuse that people also use not to do anything. I could do it, but others are not letting me.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of excuse. We all never have the power enough to change anything. And it's funny because we see that from the person that is the most humble person in our village or wherever, and we see some powerful politicians, business people saying, well, but I don't have the power to do that. I don't. So there is always, everybody's powerless at some point. I think that the only thing that we cannot do anything is about death. We died and that's it. Unless somebody explains from beyond it as something else, I don't believe that we can do anything. So we have to understand the power of engaging with people and getting our small army of change. And it starts small. It always starts small. If we go across all the biographies of all great leaders across history, they started alone. And then there was one person that gave some chance, and another, and suddenly there were millions. And that's it. but we only see the final picture where the millions are, but we don't see the beginning.
Yeah, I really like that.
Okay, Sophie, let's see if we hear you without cuts.
Let's see if it works. Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Can you hear me? Yes.
And?
Okay, I'll try. I will be short. Is it possible to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to make a difference in the world, I think it's good for all of us to stop being so self-obsessed. We are like really into ourselves in the current culture we live in. And I think the more often you can relax from yourself and trying to improve whatever you have with outside yourself and just be happy, you will make a huge difference, because you will be a better person to hang out with, and you don't have to strive and you don't have to change. You will just be more happy and more content.
Okay, so that was telegraphic with some cuts, but good. This time we hear you much better, Sophie. Maybe now you can join us with your image, your video, and because there is no cuts on that. Peter, last one.
Okay, my final one, which kind of builds on Sophie's a little bit, which is to be generous. We're all rushing around, you know, focusing on ourselves, and it's really powerful to do generous things. And it might be money, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be much. You know, a small amount can make a big difference. Sometimes it's giving people time. Once again, it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it's quality time. And, you know, what I mean by that is, you know, the quality is the level of attention that we bring to it. You know, you can be, I remember years ago I was in a meeting and with two other people, and one was the senior sponsor of some work I was doing there, so we were there to give him an update. And I always remember how he was so distracted in the meeting, and, you know, I think it was about a 45-minute meeting, but he was constantly looking at his phone, and you could tell that he wasn't really that present. And I thought afterwards I would have rather had 10 or 15 minutes where he was totally present in the meeting than 45 minutes where he wasn't. So it was about the quality of time that we, you know, or attention we give to people. And I think the really exciting thing about being kind and generous is it has a multiplication effect. A couple of weeks ago, I was going to a seminar at a local college, and I was dressed up in, you know, business attire going to this event. And I was in the car park, and I went up to the machine with some coins, thinking that I'd be able to pay for my parking with some coins. And it turned out I had to have a card. Now, I had one in my car, and I was about to walk back, and there was a young man there. He was clearly a student and probably had less money than I've got, but he just very kindly said, "No, I'll pay for your parking," just like that. He didn't know me. He just had his card, and he just paid for it. And it's really interesting because it's like how that has a sort of a knock-on effect, you know, because it made me feel like I wanted to, you know, do something for someone else. And it's the same if you're in traffic and somebody's, you know, trying to get into the busy traffic and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then somebody lets them in. And, you know, when that happens to us, we're sort of more inclined to do other things, you know, for other people as well. So, in summary, be generous, think of others, and that will have a ripple effect. It'll go way beyond you.
Very, very good. It's the also called the butterfly effect. Is that it's, and I because I work in training and education, for many times I get this. Even yesterday I got this thing that I did a seminar in 2009, and I had a guest in an event that started explaining why she engaged in the area that she's working. And she said, okay, funny story, it all started because I went to a seminar with this guy, it was me. I was like, okay, this is like full circle.
Yeah.
So it is something interesting, and you really don't know how you impact in people's life. But at the same time, and this is my third one, you have to be careful and surround yourself with interesting and challenging people. And interesting meaning that they have a brain that they use, and challenging that many times they don't agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. So you need to get me off the call.
Because it is rather important that you still keep training your brain, and you don't train with easy stuff like, okay, I say something and everybody says yes. Doesn't do any good. What does good is you have to be challenged, and you have to arrange arguments and debate, and you will get much better in terms of your ideas, and you will get a terrific input, and you will avoid some loopholes even. So that was my last one. I forgot in the middle to ask if there is any question from the audience. I put it on YouTube. Oh, sorry, we have here. Wow, it's so it is a big comment that that I don't understand from the beginning, because is this a pyramid scheme? And it's somebody called Knop. And the thing is that I think that the message over here is if we start thinking about everything that has an impact on climate and environment and everything, we will get a little bit mad. So, guys, anything else that you want to add, or we close our shop for today?
That's it for me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
guys, thank you very much. It was, as always, a wonderful opportunity, and let's say connecting with the last advice that I put it. It's always good to be surrounded by interesting, and even though we sometimes agree, we also don't agree in other stuff. And that's good, because you are interesting and challenging people that I like to meet, even in virtual ways. So thank you very much for once again having the time and the patience and the generosity to share your thoughts with the audience, and of course with me also. So thank you very much, and I hope we are also with this making a difference for somebody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.